everybody, this is the shoulder menu from the Pain Free by Pete Egoscue book. There are 2 shoulder menus within the book. One is for shoulder pain and one is for shoulder restriction. This is the shoulder restriction menu. So this is a menu for you if you don't have shoulder pain, but you have a sense that your shoulders are stiff and they need a bit more mobility and movement. If you have shoulder pain, this might not be the routine for you because we are going directly after the shoulder joint. So if you have shoulder pain, it's likely that you need to do another routine first to free up that compensation in your shoulders before they will be ready for the motion that we'll give it in today's routine. In terms of equipment, you are going to need a chair. We're going to be sat on this for 2 of the exercises, but we're also going to use it for static extension position full, which is where we have our knees on there and our hands on the ground. You're also going to need a yoga block, and you're going to need something for a supported squat setup. So for our supported squat setup, I'm going to be using my banister with my arms out in front of me like this and then bending down into a squat position. For you, it might be a sturdy doorknob, it might be a radiator, you might have something at home that works better than that, but we're going to be holding on to something, bending down slightly into a supported squat position. So that's it, let's get started. I am just going to put my stopwatch on, and we're going to start off today in sitting knee pillow squeezes. So for sitting knee pillow squeezes, we're on our chair. We want a chair that's got a firm top, so it's not too wobbly like a sofa or anything like that. My toes, my ankles, my knees and my hips are in alignment with one another. I'm making sure that my toes are not wider than my ankles, and I'm making sure that in the side view, the ankle joint is below the knee joint. I'm putting my block the medium way around in between my knees so that my hip joints, my knee joints are kept in alignment with each other. If I went the narrow way, my knees would be squeezing too narrow. So I want it to be that I'm squeezing in, but the kneecaps are tracking straight out of the hip joints. We're going to roll our pelvis forwards, which means we're going to close up the front of the hip. The rib cage does not lift up to the ceiling, so your rib cage, your sternum stays facing forwards. The feet are firmly planted on the floor, upper body relaxing, breathing in and out of our nose, sending the breath to the diaphragm. 3 minutes here of squeezes, off we go. So we squeeze the block with our knees, we hold, and we release. We squeeze, we hold, and we release. So as we do this squeezing movement, I need my coffee to go down a bit more. As we do this squeezing movement, what we're making sure of is that our upper body is staying nice and calm. So we're maintaining that nasal diaphragmatic breath in and out of the nose throughout. We're keeping our belly relaxed. We're keeping our face relaxed. We're keeping our jaw relaxed. Our hands and our arms and our shoulders are relaxed, and we're trying to roll the pelvis forwards throughout so that we feel some engagement through the front of our hip flexors here. But at the same time, as we squeeze inwards, we're also stimulating the adductors on the inner thighs. So the reason that we're starting off with this exercise in a shoulder routine is that before we start doing shoulder exercises, we want it to be that our hips are waking up. We want it to be that our pelvis is a bit more balanced, because when our hips are supporting our upper body and when our pelvis is balanced, it means that the shoulders will sit differently. So you might be somebody who is forever stretching out your shoulders or, squeezing your shoulders behind your back and stuff like that, and you're always trying to meddle with the shoulder position. But actually, you might find that by changing the structures below it, your shoulders will sit differently, and it will be a completely different experience for you. We've got just over a minute left here. Squeeze, hold, release. Making sure that you kind of fully release the contraction so that when you go back into it, you're asking for as much range of movement as possible. So as much wobbling on the squeeze and as much contraction and relaxation that you can do without dropping the block. Rolling that pelvis forwards, feeling the fronts of the hips engage. Upper body stays relaxed. Rib cage does not lift up towards the ceiling. Trying to keep both of your sit bones level from each side. So you might notice that if you've got like a pelvic hike or pelvic rotation or something like that, that you put more weight through one bum than you do the other. So try and keep that as balanced as possible. Just over 10 seconds left here. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to put the block to one side. We don't need that again. And this time I'm going to use my chair for static extension position full. So this position is hard. It's a lot of load through the hands, the wrists, and the shoulders, and it's probably not an exercise for you if you have shoulder pain, but I mentioned that at the beginning. So it looks a bit like this. The thing you've got your legs over can be anything really that you might have at home, but you just don't want it to be too wobbly. Because once again, if it's wobbly, it's going to be difficult for your knees and your hips to be balanced from side to side. So what we do is we start off in this kind of elevated all fours position. We're keeping our shoulders over our wrists. We're not letting them overshoot the wrists, and neither are the shoulders behind the wrists. The shoulders are above the wrists, but the hips are slightly further forwards than the knees. And from here, I'm going to point my toes, and I would recommend that you do this as well. So rather than having the feet kind of dangling and lazy, point your toes, see if you can get some cramping going on in the arches of your feet. You're going to roll your pelvis forwards. It's the same as what you were just doing, but the position of your body is different. So we're closing up the front of the hip joints, put the pelvis in extension, and then from here, spreading those fingers wide, stretching the thumbs back, really trying to get as much grounding through the hands as possible. We sink into our shoulder blades, keeping our elbows straight. We relax our head and we stay here for 2 minutes. So make sure that your head and your neck are completely relaxed. You might notice that your head keeps wanting to lift up. Your shoulder blades are touching behind you, so they're touching each other in the middle behind you. You're pulling them away from your ears, so they're not up round your ears. The fingers spread wide, the thumbs pull back. You're really trying to keep your fingers as straight as possible. You're trying to ground through as many parts of your palms and your fingers as possible. The pelvis rolls forward so we can feel the front of the hip closing up. You might feel the lower back contract, but it shouldn't be lower back pain. If it's lower back pain, you've probably overshot your wrists. So the shoulders stay above the wrists. This is forcing the shoulders to have to kind of work hard. It's also forcing the hands and the arms to have to work hard. Pull the shoulders away from your ears. Get them touching behind you. Relaxing your head. Breathing in and out of your nose. Relaxing your belly. Sending that breath into the lower rib cage. Relaxing your face. Pointing the toes. Rolling that pelvis forwards. I have to keep relaxing my head. And every now and then I have to sink back into my shoulders again because I start like pushing out like that because that feels easier. If this is too much for you, you can build up your strength with this one by doing static extension position or static extension on elbows. They're similar exercises, but they don't have the elevations. They're a bit easier. 3, 2, 1. Oh! I am always grateful when I've completed that one. So I'm going to be using the chair again in a minute. For now, I'm going to bring my body back against a wall. And sorry, at the beginning of the routine, I didn't mention that you'd need a wall. Technically speaking, you actually don't need a wall. But it's helpful to see whether or not you're rotating through your pelvis. So we're going to come to this position, which is a sitting floor position, and we're trying to keep our bum cheeks against the wall behind us. So this is where the wall is helpful, because it stops us having one bum cheek further forwards than the other. Our legs are out in front of us and we're going to pull our feet back towards us. So when I say we pull our feet back towards us, make sure it is the top of your feet that are moving backwards and it's not just your toes. So some people will point their feet away but flex their toes back, which isn't what we want. So we're closing at the angle at the front of the ankle here. Our toes, our ankles, our knees and our hips are in alignment. If your knees twist in, it's perfectly normal. It shows you that you've got torsion through your legs. It's not a big deal. But what I want you to do is not worry about where your knees are and focus on your feet instead. So I want the middle of your second and your third toes and the middle of your ankle to be in alignment with your hip joint. Don't worry if that then means that your knees roll inwards. Okay. We're also making sure that we're not lifting our ankles off the floor or pushing the backs of our knees down into the floor. That is hyperextension, which is a really common compensation for a lack of dorsiflexion, which is what we're going after. So keep the Achilles heels on the floor. You might even want to put like a little bit of softness in your knees to stop you from hyperextending. Pull the feet back towards you, and what you'll hopefully start feeling is a burn through the front of your shins. And when you've got that burn, you know you're doing it properly. The hyperextension of the knee will stop you from feeling that burn, okay? We're going to start the timer here for 6 minutes and I'm going to carry on walking you through cues. So, palms facing up, just resting on your thighs like so. Same rules apply as what we've done in the other two exercises where we're really trying to keep our face relaxed. And by the way, that's always the rules of posture. Keep your face relaxed. Keep that breathing in and out of your nose and into your lower rib cage. You're keeping your belly relaxed. Your hands are relaxed. We're really pulling the feet back towards us without buckling backwards and hyperextending into the knees. Honestly, if in any doubt, I actually think it's way more helpful to do this with a really exaggerated bend in your knees, really focusing on the dorsiflexion of the foot to the point where your shins are on fire. And then when you start getting that like connection to the front of your shins, it will mean that you'll be able to straighten your legs without just buckling backwards. So if you are somebody who hyperextends, or if you're not feeling very much in your legs in this one, then do make sure that you have more of an exaggerated bend than perhaps that you need. The feet pull backwards, and as we pull the feet backwards, we're trying to relax the toes, which I find really hard. So I'm not flexing my toes back towards me. My toes are staying relaxed. They are staying level with the foot. I'm flexing the back of my foot back towards me, which is different. I'm also making sure that I'm not scooping my big toe joints towards me. So if you have limited dorsiflexion in your feet, it's really common that your foot will cheat through supination instead, which means that the big toe joints are closer to you and the fifth toe joints are further away. So we're really making sure that we're pulling backwards through the sides of our feet just as much as we are the middles of our feet. That's when you'll probably notice that your knees will really roll in and you might question whether or not you're doing it properly. If you're doing it properly, yes, I'm sorry, if the knees are rolling in because you're pulling backwards through the sides of your feet, you are doing it properly. What you're doing is you're exposing how your feet compensate for a trapped hip position. So by correcting the foot position, you're going to start getting more work around your feet and your lower legs than you normally do. And what that will do is it will start to untwist that torsion that you have through your legs. From here, what we're going to do is squeeze our quads, so our front thigh muscles. We're going to squeeze them, but when we squeeze our quads, once again, we want to make sure that we're not buckling backwards into hyperextension of the knee. So people who hyperextend their knees will tend to be quite quad dominant, and the quads are responsible for extension of the knee. But if your quads work too much because other things don't work enough, if they compensate, they might create more hyperextension of the knee. So when we squeeze our quads, I want you to think about the motion of the quads as lifting your kneecaps towards your hip joints. Don't think about it as pushing the kneecaps downwards. And then this will be where you can start to learn what kind of healthy knee extension is like, but we also want to marry it up with dorsiflexion of the feet. So the most important sensation in this exercise, in my opinion, is that burning through the front of the shins. And then if we can, that connection with the burning of the shins through into the quads. So what we're doing is we're re-establishing this kind of kinetic chain from the top of the foot, through the front of the leg, through the top of the front of the leg, and into the hips. And the pelvis is going to start balancing itself here. We're over halfway. What we're trying to do is, just like in the other exercises, we're trying to close up the front of our hip. So we're trying to roll the pelvis forward so that we're creating an arch in our lower back. But once again, that motion is not this. So I'm not thrusting my rib cage up towards the ceiling because that's my back compensating. I'm trying to close up the front of my hip joints so that the top of my pelvis kind of squashes down onto the femur. Relaxing the face. Trying to keep that weight even from side to side. Keep breathing in and out of the nose and into the diaphragm. If you can, without squishing your rib cage upwards, without throwing a rib cage upwards, you can pull your shoulder blades behind you to touch, and you're going to try and pull them away from your ears. But I would rather you not do that if that then means that you're lifting the rib cage upwards. If you can't do everything, focus on the lower body. Allow the upper body to actually be like a little bit hunched and relaxed, so that we're really focusing on your hips and your legs rather than you compensating through your spine. But if you are able to pull the shoulders back without throwing the rib cage up, then that's fine. I'm just going to put a little bit more of a bend in my knees because I just feel like I'm possibly hyperextending a little bit. And as soon as I've done that, I'm really now getting more burn in my shins. So that kind of reiterates that I was compensating slightly. The middle of my second and my third toes are lining up with the hip joints. I'm not just pulling backwards through that big toe edge of the foot, I'm pulling backwards through the outer edge of the foot. I'm squeezing my quads, but I'm not using the squeeze of my quads to flatten the knees down. I'm using it to think about pulling the kneecaps towards my hip. 30 seconds left here. This is very, very, very good for pelvic balance and hip strength, leg alignment, foot function, and all of that stuff is once again setting up a more functional base for the shoulders to have better range of movement and more freedom. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so we're going to come back to our chair, and I'm going to do this facing this way. And we're going to do arm circles here. So we're getting ourselves set up in that same position that we did when we did the sitting knee pillow squeezes. Toes, ankles, knees and hips in alignment. Ankles directly underneath, rolling that pelvis forward. So all of the exercises so far have had that rolled forward pelvic position. Our arms are going to come out to the side. Our thumbs are going to face forward, and we're doing a hand position called golfer's grip. If you don't know what golfer's grip is, then please do watch my video on golfer's grip. It's really important because it helps your hands and your fingers to increase their function as well. So I am taking my arms up to the side, thumbs facing forwards, palm is open, fingers super, super active squeezed in, thumb pulling backwards. As I lift my arms up, I haven't lifted my shoulders up by my ears. So I'm pulling my shoulders back and down behind me, far, far away from my ears. They're touching behind my middle back. My middle back muscles are working to keep them there. And then I haven't poked my head forward, nor have I lifted my rib cage up. The rib cage stays down, the head stays back, the shoulders stay back. I'm going to do a minute circling like this. It's driving from the shoulder and the upper arm, not from the hands. So keep your arms locked, keep your hands locked, keep your wrists locked, keep your elbows locked. We don't want any kind of bending like this happening through the arms. We want the movement to come from the shoulder. Remember that you're trying to keep those shoulders behind you throughout. A minute forwards, off we go. So toes, ankles, knees and hips stay in alignment. We're rolling that pelvis forwards to keep the front of the hips engaged. My belly is relaxed. I'm breathing in and out of my nose. My face is relaxed. I'm trying to keep those shoulders behind me and down away from my ears. My rib cage is not lifting up and down. My head isn't pecking forwards and backwards. My thumbs are really active pulling back. My fingers are super active in golfer's grip. My elbows are locked, my wrists are locked, the movement is happening from the shoulder girdle. We've got just over 15 seconds left here. We're going to do the same thing but go backwards. Keep going. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax down. We're going to do exactly the same thing, but this time we're going to spin our arms so that they face backwards, and we're going to do backwards circles. As we do the backwards circles, make sure that you are externally rotating your arm from the shoulder joints and that you're not just flipping your hand. So for lots of people, they're still going to have their kind of upper arm facing forwards as they twist their hand back like that. What we're trying to do is open that upper arm so that it's in external rotation. It's going to feel probably more difficult. All the same rules apply. Careful of that rib cage. Off we go. 1 minute here. So we don't want the head poking backwards and forwards. We don't want the rib cage lifting up and down. Keeping those shoulders back and down behind you. I can really feel how unbalanced my shoulders feel as I do this. I'm trying to roll that pelvis forward to keep my pelvis balanced. Butt cheeks level from either side. I just feel like my left arm is so disengaged. It kind of feels like it's flapping around all over the place. 20 seconds left. Keep that face relaxed, keep the breathing relaxed. 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I love that one. Despite feeling imbalanced, I do love how it makes my upper body feel. So the chair is going to one side, and now we're coming to our supported squat position. So this will just have to be whatever you have at home. If you can't think of anything that you can get yourself set up with like this, then maybe do flexion abdominals position instead. So I've got my arms in front of me. I've got my toes, my ankles, my knees, and my hips in alignment whilst I'm standing. And what I'm going to do is bend down into a squat. My knees come over the fronts of my feet. I roll my pelvis forwards, and I'm really trying to keep my upper body upright. So I don't want to be doing this. I want to be doing this. So what we want is for the knees to travel forwards, not for the bum to head backwards. And when the knees travel forwards, it means you're getting dorsiflexion of the ankles again. We're aiming for that pelvic extension where the pelvis rolls forwards, the hip closes up, you'll feel your hip flexes. I'm going to pull my shoulders back and down using the supports. 2 minutes here, off we go. So when I look down at my feet, my toes, my ankles, my knees and my hips are in alignment. The knees are not collapsing in, the knees are not collapsing out. The middle of my second and my third toes are in alignment with my heels. I'm just going to walk my feet slightly further in front of me so that I can get a little bit more upright in my upper body. Rolling those shoulders back and down away from my ears. Keeping that length through my neck. Take as many breaks here as you need. Ooh. I'm bouncing back up. I'm coming back down. So we want the shoulders over the hips as much as possible. We want the front of the pelvis rolling forwards as much as possible to create that closure in the hip. Woo! I'm really, really enjoying filming all of these pain-free routines, but the amount that I'm going to the gym at the moment, combined with all this air bench and squatting, oh my God, it's tough. If you feel like you're having to take lots of breaks, it probably means you're doing it absolutely fine. So really trying to keep that work, oh my gosh, in the quads, in the ankles, in the fronts of the hips. Trying not to dominate with one leg over the other. We're not doing reps here. I'm just having to have a million breaks. Oh my gosh, my quads are working so hard. Oh, every time I get myself into the right position, my quads are just on fire. I need to do this more until this gets easier. 10 seconds left. Okay, no more breaks for me. Final 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, finally. When it's that hard, we need to do more of it. But it's very frustrating when things are that hard. Okay, final exercise here. We're going to do 3 minutes of cats and dogs, which is the Egoscue version of cat-cow. So for this, we're coming to an all fours position. If you have any problems with your wrists or your knees when you're in this position, then you can do pelvic tilts instead. Let's get my breath back after that squat. We're going to look and make sure that our toes, our ankles, our knees and our hips are in alignment with one another. So just making sure that the toes aren't like out to the side or that they aren't touching. We're squeezing the feet so that we're really trying to get the tops of the feet down towards the floor. If that means you get cramp in the arches of your feet, then great. The muscles are waking up there, which is what we want. The shoulders stay over the wrists. The fingers spread wide, the palms stay facing down on the floor. We're really making sure that we're like super, super active and grounded and stretching through our hands and our palms and our fingers. We don't want any kind of like weak, floppy hands there. And what we're going to do is roll that pelvis forwards in the way that we have been throughout the whole of today's class. Rolling up through our spine, sinking into our shoulders, pulling the shoulders away from the ears, gently looking up. So we're in spinal and pelvic extension here. And then we're going to squeeze our glutes to roll our pelvis under from the bottom of the spine. We travel up through the spine. We round like this. Off we go. So we're moving really slowly and mindfully here, because we're trying to find sticky bits in our spine and we're trying to ask those sticky bits to mobilize. So if you go fast and you're just chucking your head around, which tends to be what people do, and then it gives them neck pain and they wonder why. If you're just chucking your head around using momentum, you're not going to iron out the sticky bits of your spine, which is really what we're trying to do here. So I'm just trying to take it nice and slowly and really just feel into where it feels hard. I'm keeping the tops of my feet pointed, so they're staying down towards the ground. And my torso does not move forwards and backwards. It moves up and down. So a really common compensation here is people will do this type of movement. That's your kind of, you're swinging using momentum rather than using muscular control. So we're keeping the shoulders above the wrists and we're keeping the hips above the pelvis throughout. Keep breathing. In and out of the nose, sinking into the shoulders at the end. It's that same type of sensation that we got in the static extension position when we come up into the dog or the cow. Nice and slowly, spreading those fingers wide, grounding into the palms, stretching the thumb back, keeping it straight. And do feel free to put in like a little bit of free movement here. So I don't want you like bouncing forwards and backwards. But for me, I find that if I do like a little sideways twist in my flexion, I get into the sticky bit of the right side of my mid back. It just feels really nice. So, you know, I want you to explore and do things that feel good for you, but just don't get stuck into the trap of doing this because you're not being mindful. You can do that if you're being mindful and it's giving you a benefit, but don't do that if that's just because it's the way you always do it and you're not thinking and being embodied as you're doing the exercise. Gently looking up, pulling those shoulders away from the ears. I'm not chucking my head backwards, I'm just gently drawing it backwards. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Gosh, I got so out of breath on that squat. But that was the end of our restricted shoulder menu. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon.